It's in great condition, and what's the seller is when Francis wound it up, and it did the full circle right in front of me. He had me at the first lap.
What if the friendship that built a TV empire was a lie all along? Picture this. Frank Fritz and Mike Wolfe, the heart and soul of American pickers, scouring America's backroads, turning junk into gold, their bond unbreakable, or so we thought. But behind the laughs and rusty treasures, a storm was brewing. A betrayal so deep it shattered a decade-long partnership. A secret so raw it left fans stunned. Mike Wolfe's finally broken his silence on Frank Fritz. And it's not the warm reunion you're expecting, it's a gut-wrenching truth that changes everything. Why did their friendship implode? And what did Mike reveal that's got the world buzzing? You won't believe the twist waiting in this Hollywood saga. Stick with us because this story is about to unravel secrets you never saw coming. Let's rewind to where it all began. Frank Fritz came into the world on October 11, 1963 in Davenport, Iowa, a place where the Mississippi River runs deep and the roots of America feel alive. As a kid, he wasn't out throwing footballs or chasing the latest fads. Nope. Frank was the boy digging through dusty attics and rummaging at garage sales. Imagine him, wide-eyed, holding a chipped coin or a faded beer can like it was gold. To him, it was. Every scratched-up trinket whispered a story, who owned it, where it had been, and Frank was hooked. By his teens, he was a regular at flea markets, chasing vintage bikes and rare finds, turning his quirky hobby into a full-blown obsession. But here's the twist. Instead of jumping into the antique game right away, Frank took a detour. For 25 years, he clocked in as a fire inspector across Iowa. Steady gig, sure, but his heart was elsewhere. Those old buildings he checked, they were packed with forgotten gems, antique helmets, rusted alarms, fueling his love for the past even more. What if he could make that passion his life? That question changed everything. Enter Mike Wolfe, born just over a year later in Joliet, Illinois, but raised alongside Frank in Bettendorf, Iowa. These two weren't instant buddies. Middle school hellos didn't spark a lifelong bond. It took time and a shared love for the hunt to bring them together. Picture it. A crowded auction, Frank and Mike locking eyes over a beat-up motorcycle part, both itching to snag it. That's the kind of moment that kicked things off. Mike was the visionary, dreaming big and seeing potential in piles of junk. Frank? He had the eagle eye, picking out rarities others missed. Together, they hit the road, scouring barns and backyards, and in 2010, American Pickers was born. The show exploded. Fans loved their chemistry, their banter, their knack for turning trash into treasure. But how did a friendship that seemed so unbreakable completely unravel? That's the question haunting every episode. Success didn't come cheap. American Pickers turned Frank and Mike into household names, and with fame came a lifestyle most only dream of. Frank's bank account ballooned, and he splurged on what he loved: classic cars like a pristine 1960s Mustang and a roaring Harley-Davidson, both polished to perfection. His real estate game stepped up too. A sprawling Iowa pad became home to his massive antique haul. Mike wasn't far behind, snapping up vintage rides and properties to stash his own finds. Business-wise, they were golden. Mike's antique archaeology brand took off, and Frank's shop, Frank's Finds, thrived on rare firehouse gear. They'd insured it all too. Health plans for the road, asset protection for their collections, even career policies to safeguard their TV empire. Smart moves, right? But money can't buy everything. As the show rolled on, cracks formed. Fame's pressure cooker started simmering, and their once easy bond strained. Was it the cash, the spotlight, or something darker pulling them apart? Frank's story took a turn as the years ticked by. His health faltered, personal struggles he kept under wraps, and fans noticed he wasn't on screen as much. Behind the scenes, he was wrestling demons, fighting to hold it together. Then the fallout hit. That tight-knit duo? Shattered. Fans whispered about betrayal, but details stayed scarce, until now. Mike Wolfe, after years of zipped lips, finally broke his silence on Frank Fritz, and it's a gut punch. What did he say that's got everyone buzzing? Think less happy memories and more raw truth. Frank's journey from a kid chasing history to a star facing heartbreak teaches us plenty. He built wealth by betting on himself, but his spending on cars and property shows passion ruled his wallet. Lesson? Chase what you love, but balance it with a safety net. Insurance, investments, something to weather the storms. Because even the shiniest treasures can't shield you from life's twists. Let's flash back to the glory days. When American Pickers hit the History Channel in 2010, Frank and Mike were like two kids let loose in a treasure trove. Mike, the big picture guy, had been pitching the idea for years, filming their picking adventures and knocking on network doors. Frank? He was the skeptic, happy running Frank's Finds, his cozy antique shop stuffed with firehouse gear and vintage bikes. But Mike's hustle paid off, and Frank took the leap. The show was a smash. Viewers couldn't get enough of their road trips, digging through junkyards for rusty gold. Mike sealed deals with a grin, while Frank's charm lit up the screen. Got an old motorcycle buried in a shed? Frank was your guy, eyes sparkling like he'd found a lost Picasso. Their chemistry was electric, bickering like brothers, laughing over finds, making every pick feel like an epic quest. But here's the kicker. Was their friendship as tight as it looked, or was the camera hiding a bigger truth? The money rolled in, and so did the perks. By 2015, Frank's net worth was climbing toward $4 million thanks to the show and his shop. He splurged on a cherry red 1970 Chevy Camaro and a custom chopper that screamed his love for the open road. His real estate empire grew too. A $500,000 Iowa farmhouse packed with antiques, plus a rental property in Illinois, netting him steady cash. Mike was no slouch either, with a $7 million net worth by 2020, fueled by his antique archaeology brand and a Nashville condo worth $1.2 million. Both had private jets on speed dial for cross-country picks, insured to the hilt, health plans for their grueling schedules, asset coverage for their collections, and career policies to protect their TV goldmine. Frank even rocked a Rolex Submariner, a $10,000 nod to his success. Smart, right? But here's where it gets juicy. All that cash couldn't patch the cracks forming off-screen. By 2020, fans noticed Frank fading from episodes. Whispers turned to worry. Where was he? The truth hit hard. Frank was battling Crohn's disease, a brutal condition that left him struggling to eat or work. Add major back surgery, 185 stitches, 2 rods in his spine, and personal issues he kept private, and Frank was fighting a war most never saw. Mike's response? Crickets. Fans expected a shout-out, a check-in, something. Instead, silence. Then in 2021, the hammer dropped. Frank was out. Mike's statement was polite but cold, wishing Frank well but offering little else. What's worse? Frank spilled the tea in interviews, saying Mike never called during his recovery. After a decade of shared miles and memories, not a single text? That's the betrayal that stung. Frank didn't mince words. He felt pushed out, claiming their friendship was mostly for show. How does a bond like that just vanish? The fallout wasn't just emotional, it hit Frank's wallet too. His net worth, once projected to hit $6 million by 2025, stalled around $3 million as he stepped back from TV. Medical bills piled up and his shop slowed without the picker's spotlight. Mike, meanwhile, kept climbing, his net worth eyeing $8 million by next year, boosted by new ventures like a Pickers-branded clothing line. Frank's real estate held steady, but he sold a vintage Porsche to cover costs, a tough call for a car guy. Insurance helped. His health plan covered surgeries and asset policies protected his collection, but the future looked shaky. Financial lesson? Diversify your income and plan for the unexpected because even TV stars aren't immune to life's curveballs. Frank's grit kept him going, launching a small online store for rare finds, but the spark wasn't the same. Fans still cheered, flooding social media with love for his humor and heart. Could he bounce back? Fame hit Frank like a freight train. One day, he's a small-town guy haggling over vintage signs. The next, he's a TV star with fans shouting his name. American Pickers didn't just change his life, it rewrote it. By 2018, his net worth hovered around $5 million, fueled by the show, his shop, and speaking gigs. He treated himself to a sleek 1969 Dodge Charger, a $70,000 beauty that turned heads, and a Patek Philippe watch worth $20,000, a subtle flex of his success. His real estate game was strong too. A $600,000 Iowa home stuffed with collectibles and a $400,000 cabin in the Smoky Mountains for quiet getaways. Insurance kept it all safe. Health plans, relentless schedule, asset coverage for his treasures, and a career policy to protect his TV income. But here's the twist. Fame's spotlight burns hot. The pressure to be the funny picker 24/7 weighed heavy, and Frank's private struggles were about to spill into public view. What happens when the mask you wear starts to crack? Frank's battles weren't just on screen. Crohn's disease was a constant shadow, sapping his energy and stealing his appetite. He dropped 65 pounds, hiding the pain behind his trademark grin. Then came 2017, a year that nearly broke him. Picture this. Frank, driving the wrong way on an Iowa interstate, pulled over by cops. He'd mixed alcohol with Xanax, a dangerous escape from anxiety and the ghosts of his family's struggles. His mom and grandfather had wrestled with alcoholism and both lost their lives to it. The arrest hit headlines, shattering his lovable TV image. Fans were stunned. How did their favorite picker fall so far? Frank didn't dodge the truth. He called it his wake-up call, checking into a rehab center for 77 days. That's not a quick fix. That's a man fighting for his life. He emerged changed, swearing off the bottle and vowing to reclaim his spark. But life had more curveballs waiting. How much can one guy take before the weight's too much? The hits kept coming. In July 2022, Frank's world turned upside down. Found unresponsive at home, he'd suffered a massive stroke, a life-altering blow that left him fighting to survive. Weeks in the hospital stretched into months at a rehab center, where doctors worked to restore what the stroke stole. Walking, talking, even thinking clearly, everything was a struggle. The man who once roamed free, chasing treasures across America, now needed a guardian to manage his daily life and a bank to handle his finances. Medical bills skyrocketed, hitting $30,000 a month, eating into his $3.5 million net worth. Projections for $6 million by 2026? Out the window. He sold his cherished Charger to cover costs, a gut-wrenching move. Insurance helped. His health plan absorbed some hospital costs, but the future was uncertain. Financial lesson? Build a fortress of savings and coverage, because even a star's empire can crumble overnight. Yet, in this darkness, a light flickered. Who stepped up when Frank needed it most? Mike Wolfe. After years of silence, Mike visited Frank in the hospital. No cameras, no drama, just two old friends reconnecting. They laughed over past pics, shared stories, and let old grudges fade. Mike checked in regularly, ensuring Frank was cared for. Their talks weren't about the show, they were about life, friendship, and second chances. Mike later shared they'd mended fences before Frank's passing, a bittersweet truth that hit fans hard. But not every wound healed. Frank's heart carried another scar. Diane Bankson. Their decades-long on-again, off-again romance was a fairy tale gone wrong. In 2017, Frank proposed, buying a $200,000 Iowa home and a sparkling ring. He was ready for forever. But by 2018, it unraveled. Diane claimed she found Frank with another woman. Frank swore she'd been unfaithful for years. The truth? Lost in a bitter feud. Frank's tattoo, etched with "once a cheater, always a cheater," was a permanent reminder of the pain. Why did love slip through his fingers? Frank's world was once a treasure hunter's paradise. By 2020, his net worth peaked at $5.5 million, built on American Pickers fame, his antique shop, and savvy investments. He rolled in style, a 1972 Corvette Stingray worth $80,000, and a vintage Indian motorcycle that screamed his passion. His wrist sparkled with a $15,000 Omega Seamaster, a nod to his success. Real estate was his fortress, a $700,000 Iowa estate packed with collectibles, a $500,000 Tennessee cabin, and a $300,000 rental property in Illinois. He chartered private jets for cross-country picks, all covered by ironclad insurance, health plans for his grueling days, asset protection for his antiques, and career policies to safeguard his TV empire. But here's the gut punch. Wealth couldn't shield him from life's storms. As his health faltered and relationships frayed, Frank's empire began to crack. What happens when the treasures you chase can't save you? Love was Frank's toughest battle. His decades-long romance with Diane Bankson was a roller coaster of hope and hurt. In 2017, he proposed, buying a $250,000 Iowa home for their future. But by 2018, it imploded. Diane accused Frank of infidelity. He swore she'd betrayed him for years. The truth drowned in a sea of accusations, and Frank's tattoo, "Once a cheater, always a cheater," etched the pain permanently. Things got messier in 2020 when Diane filed a lawsuit, claiming Frank's negligence with a firework caused her severe injuries. She dropped the case months later, but the damage was done. Their love story, once a beacon of hope, ended in lawsuits and silence. Frank sold their shared home in 2021 for $600,000, pocketing a small profit but losing a piece of his heart. Diane moved on, finding new love by 2022, while Frank never spoke to her again. Could they have salvaged it? That question haunts his story. By 2024, Frank's battles were closing in. Crohn's disease, a 2022 stroke, and years of personal struggles left him fragile. His net worth dwindled to $2.8 million as medical bills, $30,000 a month, ate through his savings. Future projections of $6 million faded. He sold his Corvette to stay afloat. Insurance cushioned the blow. Health plans covered rehab. Asset policies protected his collection. But it wasn't enough. His shop slowed, and online sales couldn't match his TV days. Yet, in his darkest hour, Mike Wolfe stepped up. Their rekindled friendship was a lifeline. Mike visited, called, and sat by Frank's side as his condition worsened. In September 2024, when doctors said Frank's time was short, Mike rushed to him. No grudges, no cameras, just love. Frank's final moments were quiet, surrounded by his mom, a close friend, and Mike, who whispered forgiveness and peace. How does a friendship outlast so much pain? Frank's passing, caused by complications from his 2022 stroke and aortic stenosis, marked the end of a warrior's fight. His body, worn by illness, could no longer endure. Fans flooded social media, mourning the guy who made junkyards feel like adventures. His legacy wasn't just antiques. It was his heart, his humor, the way he connected. Mike's recent interview, raw and unfiltered, dropped a bombshell. He called Frank's sale of the Iowa home his fatal mistake, not for the money but for what it cost his soul. Mike believes letting Diane go without fighting for their love left Frank alone when he needed her most. He killed her, Mike said, meaning Frank buried his chance at happiness. Could Diane's presence have changed his fate? That's the question Mike's wrestling with, and it's tearing fans apart. Financial lesson? Wealth is fleeting. Invest in relationships as much as assets because they're what carry you through. Frank Fritz's story is a treasure map of lessons. His passion built a fortune, but his losses teach us to hold tight to what matters. Mike's forgiveness shows redemption is possible, but Diane's absence warns that some doors close forever. What would Frank say if he could speak one last time? His life, flawed and beautiful, reminds us to chase dreams, mend bridges, and never let love slip away. Drop your thoughts below. Could Frank and Diane have found their way back? Subscribe because this tale's echoes will linger long after the credits roll.